Namaste. My name is Neelima. Welcome to Reflections Along the Way podcast, where you will be listening to reflections from learnings and experiences along my life's journey. In the previous episodes, we reflected upon the three bodies, the gross body, the subtle body, and the causal body. Now, although our true nature is pure consciousness, we pass through these three different states of waker, dreamer, and deep sleeper based on which body we are identifying with. If we are identifying with the gross body, then we are in the state of waker. When we are identifying with the subtle body, we are in the state of a dreamer. And when we are identifying with the causal body, we are in the state of a deep sleeper. When we transcend identifying with any of these three bodies, then these three states automatically fall away. We apprehend or we experience the pure nature of the self and that all-pervading consciousness. In that state, we transcend these three states of waker, dreamer, and deep sleeper, and we become self-realized. Now, we can understand this very simply based on our daily lives, right? In our lives also, we play different roles, right? I mean, at home, when we are with our parents, then we acquire the status of a child. We identify ourselves as the child. When we are with our children, then we have the status of a parent. We identify ourselves as a mother or a father. In the office, we identify ourselves as an employee or a manager. In the playing field, we identify ourselves as a player. All these things, the child, the parent, the worker, the player, they have no independent existence, right? There's just one individual, but based on which role we are assuming for a certain period of time, we identify with that particular role. In the same fashion, the self is one and the same in all human beings, irrespective of the caste, creed, nationality, or religion. The nature of the pure self is that absolute bliss. For us to regain that, experience that bliss, we constantly go into the outer world and we try to gain more and more happiness from the world. And while we are doing so, we get this small, little moments and spasms of joy, but they're soon followed by sorrows and bitterness. Why do we experience all these changes? Because we have identified with the matter layers, the 5 sheets and the 3 bodies. So basically all the qualities that are associated with the matter layers are superimposed upon the self. And to remove those false impressions of the self, we have to reflect upon the 5 layers of matter, and we have to slowly and gradually detach ourselves from the influence they have over us. And to whatever extent we are successful in doing so, to that extent we experience the pure self as different from the 3 states: waking, dream, and deep sleep states. The discrimination of the 5 superimposed layers and the recognition of one's nature to be the pure self is called Panchakosha Viveka in Sanskrit. Matter by itself is not sentient, right? It's inert. But we behave as sentient beings. We are conscious of everything that is happening around us. Therefore, there must be something other than these 5 sheets, these 3 bodies that must exist, which is giving them that sentience. This sentient conscious principle is the pure consciousness, the self. As an example, if we take an electric bulb, it does not glow by itself, right? when electricity comes in contact with the electric bulb, that is when the bulb has light. In the same way, inert matter layers are illuminated, enlivened by the presence of the pure self. We, without knowing only, we kind of unconsciously accept that we are different from our equipment. We say, my body, my emotions, my thoughts, right? So the possessor is different from the possessed. Just like when we say, my car, I am different from the car. In a similar way, we unconsciously are accepting that I am different from the body, the emotions and thoughts when we address it as my body, my emotions, my thoughts. The pure self is distinct from the body, the mind and intellect. These three bodies, the gross body, the subtle body and the causal body, they are the three equipments through which the self functions. We can also think of this self as the fuel that propels these three vehicles, the body, mind and intellect, to function. The self, which is the life force that functions through these three bodies, that creates the human personality, the waker, the dreamer and the sleeper. Now, because the pure consciousness is that which is making the physical and the mental equipments function, we cannot use the intellect to see the consciousness directly, just as the eye cannot see itself. In Atma Bodha, Shankaracharya explains a lighted lamp, it does not need another lamp to see itself. In a similar fashion, Atman, which is the knowledge itself, it needs no other knowledge to know it. It's self-illuminating. And because this pure consciousness is beyond our mental equipment, beyond the scope of our intellect and mind, the mental equipment, then what happens is our mind makes a false projection upon reality. And after making this false projection, it identifies with that version of reality and experiences the pluralistic world. And this phenomenon of projecting and identifying, it's called superimposition. Now, the causal body arises because of our ignorance of the reality. Ignorance is avidya in Sanskrit. It comprises of the vasanas which are unmanifest, and that is the very cause of our world of plurality. And this world of plurality that we experience is a false projection arising out of the ignorance, out of our own ignorance of reality. An example is mentioned here by Swamiji, and we can relate to this in our own lives as well. So sometimes we are in a gathering and we just observe a couple of people noticing us, and we assume that they're talking about us, and we start thinking about what they must be talking about. We start our suspicions, our assumptions. We don't even know what they're talking about, but we build our own reality. They might, for all we know, they might not even be talking about us. But we build our own reality based on our own projections, right? So there's our own imagined version of reality. Now, to move beyond these false projections, the pluralistic world that we experience, and realize our true nature, that is to transcend the three bodies. But many of us, we try to hold on to these three bodies while trying to reach toward the higher state of bliss. But is it possible to do that? And Swamiji gives an example here again. He talks about a tin which contains all sorts of chocolates of different types, shapes, colors. They're all wrapped in very beautiful, wrappers, colored foils and all. So children sometimes, with their ignorance, they chew the chocolate along with those colorful wrappings. They enjoy the sweetness, but they're going to get sick because they ate the foil, right? In a similar way, the self is wrapped in these layers of matter, and it's labeled in various ways, like a woman, a man, American, Indian, Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, European, whatever, so many different ways of labeling. So what we do is we try to enjoy the sweetness of the bliss, the nature of that self, along with these wrappings, along with these different labels. So we experience like a little bit of joy but they are very soon followed by sorrow. So now what is the solution? The only solution is to analyze and discard all these 5 layers of matter wrappings and come to a realization that self is different from these 3 states of waker, dreamer and deep sleeper. Thank you for listening to today's reflections. If you'd like to connect with me, please visit bluishmuse.com. Until next time, Namaste.